What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Omar Khateeb. I'm a Medtech marketer here to help you get better, whether you're trying to raise money as a founder, attract clinical adopters, or just get better in your marketing stack. So today we're covering a really interesting topic, which is the funnel. Now, you've heard me talk about this in the past in podcasts. If you haven't already checked it out, check out my podcast, The State of Medtech, which is the #1 show in the industry. But we've covered in that show the fact that while I don't like funnels, because people don't normally buy that way, it's a great way to visualize it. Well, after years of me talking about this, of course, BCG, Boston Consulting Group, put together this fantastic article, which I think might be a little bit more persuasive than my opinions, because they have a lot of data that comes along with it. And the article essentially is called, "It's Time for Marketers to Move Beyond the Linear Funnel." So that being said, let's dive into it. Now, here's the thing. For decades, we've used the traditional funnel. If you think about it, awareness, consideration, conversion. Today's buyers, when it comes to clinicians, hospital administrators, doesn't really matter. Surgeons, service line directors, or procurement teams, they don't really move neatly through the funnel, okay? So in medtech, just like in consumer markets, the buyer journey is very much non-linear and messy and multi-touch. Why is that so? You always have to go back to evolutionary biology, and simply put, this brain of ours has not evolved in the last thousands of years. Okay, some people might say that, oh, it's adapting somehow in the last few years because of the internet and AI and everything. That might be so, but the fact of the matter is that surgeon or hospital administrator that you're trying to market to doesn't take their suit or white coat off and become a different person at home. So whatever that they're experiencing as a consumer is going to happen in the B2B buying world. So as a consumer, there's multi-point touches that influence them, along with a very complex buyer journey. We're going to see that exact same thing when it comes to their B2B buying decisions. So if we look at Exhibit 1 from the Boston Consulting Group's article, okay, we can see that the buyer journey here in this funnel is as so. And of course, we're used to it just going straight down the middle. But in reality, it could be that someone starts with, let's say, an email or even some search, but then ends up being influenced directly by a video they see online. They book a demo, right? It could be that they start perhaps maybe in the consideration phase, they bounce back to the awareness phase and then straight to the buy. The point is that now this funnel is a lot more complicated. So of course, the traditional funnel looks very much like this, where you essentially have an awareness, consideration, action. And again, as it relates to the consumer world, we're looking at streaming, scrolling, searching, and shopping. Now, to translate this to the medtech audience, right? The way I want you to think about this is that for streams, I want you to think of this as webinars, live streams, right? Things that are more top of funnel. Scrolling could be something like scrolling on LinkedIn or X, formerly known as Twitter. Searching, looking on PubMed, doing a Google search, and then the shopping side is the conversion where they do a demo, request for proposal, or doing a lab. Now, I want you to also consider that for our world, okay, we have multiple funnels in a funny way. It's almost like when you try to get a clinical champion, you have one type of funnel, and the moment that you get them and you start that process of going through the VAC committee, now you have a new funnel where you're trying to influence the VAC committee and other stakeholders through ABM. That's a whole other can of worms that we'll get into in another video. So what is the better alternative? Well, Boston Consulting Group came up with this concept of an influence map. I personally like it a lot. It's a smarter, a lot more flexible way to plan marketing. It's built on how people actually behave, especially I think in medtech. So instead of assuming linear steps, it focuses more on degrees of influence at each decision. So let's look at a surgeon going through an influence map. So pretend a surgeon or clinical KOL attends a major conference like NAS or AAOS, okay? And they walk by your booth and they see a really good demo. So we could say that that might be towards here, right? In terms of the shop or taking action, right? Because that's very much towards the bottom of the funnel. But technically, that thing is more in the awareness phase. So I'm going to go ahead and put a #1 for that here. So that's the first part, okay? Then maybe later they're retargeted with a case study video or a testimonial from a peer. So something like that is in the consideration phase, but we're talking about something that's going to be in the scroll area. So maybe it's somewhere between scroll and search, all right? Next, they search for clinical data. So now we're still in the consideration phase, but they're in search now. So we're gonna go #3 right here. okay? And then a few days later, they receive a follow-up email with a webinar invite, and this time they sign up and attend. So that's higher up on the stream side, right? It's a top of funnel activity, but technically you're towards the bottom of your funnel, right? And so the key influence points you have to think about is that they had a booth experience, they're retargeted with content, they got peer validation, and then they have webinar engagement, okay? And the point of this is that while there is some patterns here, it's not a linear journey. As you can see from this chart that I graphed, if you think about this funnel, yeah, you can map it through, but they're all over the place, right? Just like that. Now, here's an interesting example of influence maps, and there's two different ones we have here. On the left side, we have Journey A, which is the impulse strategist, and Journey B, you have a smart saver, okay? So Journey A is describing the impulse strategist. So this is somebody who's very spontaneous, a digitally savvy shopper. They enjoy discovering new things like a new beverage, and they want to plan purchases for future use, right? So maybe they see an ad for a product while streaming on YouTube, and they encounter something in an in-store display. They search for product reviews on retail sites, and then they ultimately use a digital coupon to make a purchase, right? So as you can see here, from the journey, right, we start number one here, which is more of a streaming side. They found it on YouTube, right? They go to number two down here, which is still in the consideration phase, but is part of that influence map where we're dealing with a shop, right? So large format store displays. They go to number three, which is a search function. Now they're in the consideration phase, but they actively search for something, and then finally they make the decision with a coupon. Now let's compare that to Journey B, where you essentially have a smart saver. Okay, so in Journey B, okay, you have a budget conscious shopper who is undecided on brand, okay? Her journey is going to start with a quick search online to compare options. Then while scrolling on social media, her attention is grabbed by an influencer's post showcasing a product that fits her needs, and intrigued, she taps shop now and completes the purchase directly in app. So again, let's look at her influence points. Okay, number one, she's here in the search function where she's actively searching, comparing things online. She goes to number two, okay, where now you're in the scrolling side. She's on Instagram and scrolling. And then the final thing is that she's in the shop now feature of Instagram. Now take a look at those two things between the Journey A of an impulse strategist and Journey B of a smart saver, and look at how different they are. Now they go through the full funnel, but in terms of what influenced them, it's different. Impulse strategist, there is a little bit more of a zigging and zagging, right? And it looks very, very different, right? Compared to Journey B, okay? How does that look for, let's say, somebody at the procurement department of a hospital? Well, maybe their key touch points are in this order. Number one, online research. So benchmarking via online searches and peer-reviewed reports. That's where they start, okay? So they are in this search phase right here. The second step, social proof via KOL, right? They're on LinkedIn, they're scrolling, they come across a surgeon sharing a post that they know. So that prompts them to start looking more into the product, right? Which moves them to number three, interactive value content. So then after the surgeon makes his post on LinkedIn, they click through to the company LinkedIn page, then click to the company website, right? And they download something, right? Something of value, okay? Maybe it's a paper or something. And then finally, the decision is made after a collaborative video call with a sales engineer who customizes an economic value to their site, okay? Which is right here down to number four. And in terms of influence, right? Degree of influence, I mapped this out here where I felt like 1, 2, and 3 all up here. These are the things that had the most influence. The last thing, which is at the very bottom, right? Even though it was at the bottom of the funnel, right? That thing probably didn't have that much influence in terms of their decision to consider this product. Now, here's a key insight about this entire thing is that one of the things that's really important is to understand that reach does not equal influence. So you might reach, let's say, 10,000 OR directors with a very good ad, but it's irrelevant or untrusted. It's going to be worth it, right? Influence is really driven by a few things, 3 specific things. Attention, are they really paying attention? 2, relevance, does this solve the problem that they're looking for? And number 3, trust, do they believe the source? So as an example, a peer-led webinar might influence more than, let's say, a banner on a trade show site. No offense to trade shows, I think it's great if you advertise there, but what I'm advocating for is a little bit of austerity in our industry to think about where should we spend money and how is this actually influencing the buyer journey. So how do we apply this in action? Well, this channel is all about taking action, and I have it written down here, how to take action. Number one, you want to plan for influence, and two, execute with AI. Let me explain what I mean by that. For planning for influence, you want to be able to map key decisions and identify the top buying paths taken by surgeons, administrators, and procurement teams. You want to pinpoint high impact moments, understand where stream, for example, webinars, scroll, LinkedIn, X, search would be PubMed or Google search, and then the shop side, demos, labs, etc., are going to actually influence decisions. And then finally, you want to align your messaging to the journey. So build campaigns around these touch points to increase relevance and trust. And then how do you execute on AI? Look, you've heard me talk about it so many times on my podcast. If you're a marketer, a CEO, I don't care what you do, this is the greatest time to be alive. We have all these amazing AI tools. You should have a tool belt of different AI platforms to use. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. I'll teach you more. So to execute with AI, there's three things you want to do. One is gauge your AI readiness. So benchmark where your team is on adopting AI tools across marketing functions. Introduce one thing at a time, like maybe start out with ChatGPT. Just start getting used to it. The second thing is you want to target the right steps. So use AI to really optimize your content, media spend, and personalized follow-up. This is where it matters most. Most marketing teams in the past were limited because we couldn't make so much content in such a short amount of time. There's no reason for that anymore, because with AI, you're able to make a lot of content in a short amount of time, like I did for this video. And finally, you want to pilot it where it counts. So launch these AI-driven campaigns in your highest value influence journeys first. One great example of this is if you think about the search function, there's a variety of SEO optimized blogs that you can write as it relates to the problem that you solve, the solution, etc., right? So maybe put out 2 to 3 of those a week, right? And you can get this all done within an afternoon of planning. So look, everybody, let's face it, the medtech sales and marketing cycle is extremely long, it's complex, and it's high stakes. The funnel model doesn't really capture how decisions are really made anymore, but this new framework, well, it gives you the power to at least meet buyers, whether it's surgeons or hospital administrators, exactly the way they are, with influence, not just with noise. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, give me a follow, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought about this video and what kind of things would you like to see me make next. And by the way, I have a lot of great resources for you. If you're a marketer, you're interested in joining my free marketing Zoom call, check the notes below. And maybe you're a CEO or founder or even a marketer, you want to engage my agency and get us to help you, you can just go to growmymedtech.com to learn more and book time with me. So as always, we'll see you later, and I hope you enjoyed the video.